What's up, guys? I'm LAJ with Legendary Sports Organizations. I'm back at it with my friend Peter,
What's up, y'all?
and we're back talking about the NBA. Now, the NBA is not set yet. They're still in the summer league, so not all the rosters are set. What we do know is definitely the Warriors are going to be number one, and the Cavs are going to be number one in the East.
So we're getting a good idea of what exactly the teams are destined to do for the year.
Definitely.
We've already had our predictions in our last video.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
We're going to elaborate
which wasn't obviously complete because
Yeah.
we had some notable moves, and then some we're going to actually talk about today.
Yeah. So the first thing that we're gonna get talk about is there's a couple of key free agents that are still out there, but one of them that sticks out the most is Derrick Rose, and the reason I say he's the most stood out because Derrick Rose is an MVP. He's carried a team into the Eastern Conference Finals, and personally for me, I think that team could have taken out the Heat back in those 2011, 2012 years. So honestly, Derrick Rose for me, I feel like he's done. He's no longer one of those elite or even one of those all stars to be worth a max contract or really what he's demanding. What do you feel? What do you think?
Well, he's in the prime of his career because now
28
he's
years
28 years old. So from your late 20s to your early 30s is when you're considered in your prime years.
Yeah.
Yes, he's injury prone. There's a lot of memes out there of Rose with a cast, a wheelchair. Yeah, of course. It's this history of his injuries. But what I was discussing with Jesus is I would think for the best fit would be with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, I don't know the cap situation with them, but I feel it's a good fit because you have potentially a backup or even a starting job behind Tony Parker and Patty Mills. And with LaMarcus Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard already on that team, and I believe Paul Gasol will be resigning
most likely.
as well.
Yeah, most likely.
They have a need for a point guard since injuries do happen, but in a Popovich-led team, I've never really heard of
a long-term
injury of a player. They really take care of their team.
Yeah, definitely. They have a good staff, a good medical staff there. They have like a good regimen and a good training staff. Everything's good about it there. But honestly, to me, I feel like this whole how he performed in New York, it was just a fluke. He was just showing up so he could, show other teams that he still has the potential to, score and be healthy throughout the year. But for me, I don't think. Well, if he's gonna sign for maybe like $8 million on a 1-year deal, and that's like. For
that's
him,
if he wants
that's if it's on him. That's really on him. But he's not worth, a 5-10 year like a max player. He's not worth that. He's just not that time of the year. But the other thing we want to talk about, the other player we want to talk about is Rajon Rondo. He's not that injury prone, but he has a sketchy and streaky past where you don't know what type of Rondo you're gonna get. The Bulls got a streaky Rondo regular season, but playoffs came around and
you got playoff Rondo.
Yeah, you got playoff Rondo. Playoff Rondo almost swept the Boston Celtics, who were the number 1 seed, and nearly shocked the world. But then he went down with injuries, and then little by little that, how Chicago thing went down.
Chicago last year was just waiting to be imploded with
Jimmy
Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rondo. They couldn't coexist.
Yeah, they even called out the team. It was like a team meeting that they had to call each other out, and everybody just rubbed devils the wrong way. So right now, Rondo is out there. I think personally he might look good either in Miami with Hassan Whiteside and being backup, or even starting with Goran Dragic. The other option for me is the Pelicans. What do you feel?
I feel it's the Pelicans as well. You have Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, 2 guys that need the ball passed to them because they're not ball handling forwards. They're not Blake Griffin or even a Draymond Green where they can bring up the ball up the floor. They're not those type of players. They need the ones where, maybe Anthony, but still, I don't think they really want to use him as a point forward.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So you need that point guard who's really just about passing, and that's what Rondo brings to them is a 13 assists per game.
You could easily get that with just Anthony Davis alone.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, and maybe about 8 to 10 points, possibly.
Yeah.
But again, very streaky shooter, and in this league now, you need to have your point guard not only pass, but shoot at a decent clip. If not, then you're pretty much ancient. You're extinct.
Yeah.
Which is why, going back to Rose, he's still at least better than Rondo as far as his jumper, but obviously we're just going off
a risk.
It's a risk exactly.
Yeah.
With Rondo, you kind of know what you're gonna get. kind of at most of the time. It's just up to him. At this point, with both players, it's really what they're going to decide they want to do.
Definitely.
Is it really money, or is it really just the security of being with a different
established team, or
Yeah.
maybe even a contender. But talking about the Pelicans, now there's this thing going on where Houston is front runner, and most likely by next week we'll see a three-headed beast with CP3, Melo, and James Harden. That would be like a huge acquisition. It'll be cool, but Houston doesn't really have a lot to offer, and if they are, they're going to strip down practically everything that remains for them.
So this is where
just
what
to have
people fail
Carmelo.
to realize is to acquire Carmelo, he has a trade kicker in his contract that's going to up his salary.
That's
I believe
another
an
thing,
extra
too, yeah.
$2-3 million.
Yeah.
And you have him, CP3, who's on a 1-year deal. He's gonna resign supposedly, because why would Houston take that risk?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then they already extended James
Harden,
Harden
4-year, $200 million.
So it's like, I don't know. I'm scratching my head a little bit on these moves on Houston's part, because what more are you gonna have to give up?
Yeah.
You know, at this point,
What do you have left?
Yeah, and then it's gonna be those three and a bunch of undrafted picks, or just a bunch of low level minimum wage, not minimum wage, but minimum contract players. You know, it's a little bit it's a little dicey to go after Melo like that. But
so they include the Pelicans. So let's just say they include the Pelicans in this trade. For me, I feel like the Pelicans should part ways with DeMarcus Cousins. I'm not saying it's not going to work or it isn't working. I just feel like, why take the chance to take an entire season, take the talent of Anthony Davis, trying to build chemistry with DeMarcus and Anthony Davis? Why not just build on your franchise player, who this franchise player is also a face of the NBA? I mean, if you could trade DeMarcus and get great pieces, might as well do it.
But that's the thing. I like to think that they got DeMarcus to make sure Anthony Davis not only stays, but resigns with New Orleans. Now, the hypothetical trade scenario, you know, what would New Orleans get back?
Yeah.
That's what's still being discussed.
Yeah.
Especially if you part with DeMarcus, which now that'd be his third team in
a
2
year.
years.
A year.
Or a year, actually.
Because he was traded last year, like halfway through the season.
So now, I like to think that Monty Williams and their GM would make sure that they could at least just keep him from the year and see how that works. Yeah, this year. Yeah, keep him this year and then see how it goes. Because honestly, when they acquired DeMarcus, it was a trade that nobody expected.
Yeah, huge blockbuster.
It was one of those things where, you know, in hindsight, we now look like the Kings look like they maybe have gotten the better of the deal.
Yeah, but he healed
no one thought that when that trade happened, but you know, crazy things do happen. So for the most part, though, it's gonna be exciting to see what this deal could potentially be. But I still think that Melo's gonna end up in Houston and be part of that three-headed monster that they're gonna start creating. But of course, you know, what's left? What's really going to be left over?
Who's going to back him up? And are they going to be able to keep Gordon? I mean, is that going to be part
because
of the trade deal?
We're now looking at a
value. What value do
No, not even that. You're now looking at what the Heat had when they brought in LeBron and Chris Bosh, when they brought those guys in. They had to build around them. You know, they did the hard part and got the players. But this isn't like before, because LeBron, I know, took a pay cut, and I believe Bosh took a pay cut.
Yeah, they did.
Melo ain't taking no damn pay cut because he can't.
Well, they buy him out. Unless they buy him out, that's the only way. That's the only logical way for Houston to like save money and save the pick that what they have. Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, New York is not.
And believe me, like I'm really interested to see what exactly Houston's gonna do next year. Because it's really, they're doing win now. They want to win now. And I'm sorry, but you have to go up against Golden State, and good luck. Yep. Maybe you have a fighter's chance, but now you're really just banking on the West just beating these guys up at this point.
Yep. All right, cool.